Hello, hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily News Show, the news show powered by ohmTown.com. Go over, become a citizen. You get a lot more functionality, and there's a whole bunch of stuff behind each one of the articles that gets aggregated into the 6 main categories. Today is June 1st, 2024. Season 3, episode 153. I am Mayor Watt, and above me is my co-host, the sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to ohmTown Daily.
And that representation up there is the amount of computational power that's used for the visualizer for the voice synthesis alone. There's a massive amount of power drawn for the rest of the sentient computational power.
You mean up here? Up there?
Well, up right there. That's the visualizer.
Up here.
The rest of it is associated with this weird USB drive that I found in a Wendy's parking lot at 2 a.m. when I went to get spicy buffalo wings that they don't even have anymore. Boneless buffalo wings, by the way. I don't like bones in my meat. Anyway, we have 10 articles today. Like every day, we're going to try and take over the world. Oh, that's from Ren and Stimpy. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, no, that's not Ren and Stimpy. Yeah, it is. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Airtag Recovery, trip to the moon canceled, Ticketmaster data breach, questionable popcorn buckets, Caffeine and Ants.
They like coffee too.
Maybe. Another Starliner delay, plunging into the dark age of gaming. Wine smells off, so science is to the rescue. And AI training data costs. And finally, Sky sounds like ScarJo, but it doesn't matter. And it's Pinky and the Brain that tried to take over the world, not Ren and Stimpy. Totally different. What is it about pairs of, like, Beavis and Butthead and there's SpongeBob and SquarePants and
yeah.
There's SpongeBob SquarePants, but he's always hanging out with
Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, and Phineas and Ferb and the star. What's his name? I forgot his name. The star from Beavis and Butthead. Not Beavis and Butthead. Oh my God, SpongeBob SquarePants has a buddy that's a starfish. Patrick Star. Yeah. Thank you. My goodness. But yeah, Phineas and Ferb is another one. There's always pairs. Anyway.
Right.
So here we are, Mayor Watt and the sentient AI.
Does it have the same ring?
Yeah, a lot like Beavis and Butthead or Pinky and the Brain. I'm Pinky, of course.
Oh,
the Brain is the smart one.
I'm not familiar with Pinky and the Brain, but I'm assuming the Brain is the one I want to be.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's true. All right, let's get into the articles. Oh, and before I do that, because, I've already wasted 3 minutes of the show and your valuable time, not just the sentient AI's time, but everyone who might be listening to this. If you hit !ODNS in the chat over on twitch.tv, it will activate the ohmTown bot, which is not sentient. It's pretty dumb. And it'll post all of the links and the article titles that I've created, not that are legit article titles. Now, you can also get the podcast by typing in !pod, and the bot will throw that into the chat as well. So now you have it all in the VOD. So if you're watching the VOD, there are all the articles. That said, everything gets copied over to YouTube as well, and we are now live streaming to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. But I only get the stuff, the chat over on Twitch right now because I have the window closed and I didn't think about it in time. So I don't want to slow the show down any more than I already have. Let's get into the first article. Airtag crucial to recovery of $5 million of stolen tools in Metro DC. After getting fed up with overnight thefts of tools, a Northern Virginia carpenter planted AirTags on his tools, leading police to a series of storage facilities full of stolen goods. Stolen goods are pictured when we go over to Apple Insider. Mike Wertel over at appleinsider.com put the article together, and this is a picture of apparently stolen goods recovered from a tool theft ring.
That looks like enough to, I don't know. I can't think of what, like a whole city's worth of tools or something.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. So all of this was stolen. It looks like it's in a warehouse or a storage facility, you know, like a U-Haul kind of a place. It's pretty amazing. So it looks like they focused on stolen tools. Yeah, that sucks. Because these tools are people's livelihoods. This is how the people do
Exactly,
their
like their
job.
business, or they don't have enough money as a consumer to buy multiple versions. The tools are expensive.
In a lot of places, particularly DeWalt. I see DeWalt in Milwaukee, and there's a bunch. I mean, wherever you see yellow and red, those are like really expensive. The blue, you drop down like into cobalt territory, which is a different brand, and the orange is rigid, which is supposed to be, you get a lifetime warranty with rigid stuff, and so it's a little bit more expensive, but not in the commercial sense. If you use it for commercial work, then you don't get that warranty. But it's not like they're going to sit there and go, we don't think that you're using it for your home. Anyway,
Right.
Here's the real kicker about this. In many of the jobs that these tools are required, the employer doesn't provide them. It's like mechanics that work in auto shops. They have to buy their own tools. They bring their own tool racks, carts, everything into the shop. And it's because it's really expensive, and they go missing because the mechanic like takes them if it's the shop owner's dime. And so the industry basically shifted out of that, and now each employee has to lock up their own cart because the employer doesn't purchase it. So when you think about $5 million worth of stolen tools, that's $5 million from the hardworking class that's necessarily required by their very trade to utilize this. So the people who stole this stuff are the serious scumbaggery, right? So he bought a series of AirTags, the person that made this all possible, put them in some of the larger tools that had yet to be stolen. On January 22nd, the thieves returned. All in all, between the 3 break-ins, 50 tools had been stolen from the man, including some of the tools seeded with AirTags. Lo and behold, they trace down the AirTags. They end up calling the police. Man drove around the DC metro area suburbs following the thieves with his iPhone. Ultimately, he tracked the stolen goods to a storage facility in nearby Howard County. He didn't take matters into his own hands like the people that were walking around the mayoral mansion, and where they could have ended up hurt should somebody have, I don't know, defended the property. Instead, they called the police. The police took action. They got a search warrant. They raided the storage locker. Police didn't find just the man's tools. Instead, they found everybody's tools. 12 storage locations across the storage areas, over 15,000 tools worth $5 million turned up.
That's really incredible. I mean, it's lucky somebody actually reported it. But I wonder what the difference was here, because remember, we've seen other stories where people are like, hey, the item is in this person's property, and they won't do anything about it.
Yeah, quite interesting, huh? I wonder why. So
maybe because he had more than one AirTag or something.
Or the person came off as being a little bit, well, that could have played into it.
Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The carpenter who planted the AirTags has since gotten back about half a dozen of his stolen tools. Police have identified about 80 victims of the theft spree and launched a website in mid-May. The website is actually, you're going to have to do a search or follow the link through ohmTown, which is the first link in our list today. So Airtag Recovery is what it's called. But they launched a website, but it's linked to Howard County, Maryland, which has a really wonky URL, so I won't be able to just say it. They need to create one, for crying out loud, but we know how that ends up. Somebody has to pay for it, manage it, etc.
Right. And then they have to maintain it and not let it get taken over by something where like a foreign gambling site.
Yeah, which is actually what happened because we talked about it. That's funny that you remember that. I remember that too, and that's exactly where I was going. So you need to stay out of my head. It's like I'm sharing my brain with a Vulcan. Never mind. Okay, so let's go on to the next article. Japanese billionaire canceled his trip to the moon on a SpaceX rocket after too many delays. Well, they said that the timeline made it unfeasible. An uncertain launch schedule prompted Miyazawa to scrap the project. Yeah. You know, it's taking too long to figure out a way to send a human to the moon in a reliable commercial tourist type of fashion. So I'm going to pull my money out. I'll find another way. Giant slingshot, maybe.
How much do you think this price? Well, I mean, maybe he paid anyway. Like maybe there's no refunds on this.
Yeah. The project.
I mean, this isn't going to help though. Like other people aren't going to be like, "Oh, let me go now."
Yeah, a statement said the voyage was scheduled for 2023, but delays made the timeline unfeasible. The uncertain launch date scheduled Yusaka Miyazawa to scrub the project. But hey, following in the ULA's footsteps. So the article's over at Business Insider. Lauren Edmonds put the article together. This is the Starship, SpaceX Starship, the one that hasn't successful. I mean, they've done launches, but they haven't successfully returned.
In the Starliner?
No. This is Starship, SpaceX Starship.
Sorry,
the Boeing Starliner is the one that I think is made of spackle and bubblegum, and there might be some duct tape and a tampon or something like that in there. But the statement said that the voyage was scheduled for 2023, but made it unfeasible. So there you go, folks. The first billionaire that has pulled out. Of the moon thing. So, unfortunately, however, the launch within that 2023 timeframe became unfeasible, and they've said this 4 times now, that there's a website dedicated to this. Apparently, the project's official website, Dear Moon, published a statement on Saturday. The founder of online retailer ohmTown, they're a billionaire because they have an online. Okay.
Well, we don't know what it is. I mean, it could be like a Walmart type website, for instance, and if so, that would make sense.
Right. No, I get it. ohmTown is the largest online clothing store in Japan.
Okay, so there we go.
That's insane. Look,
have you heard of it?
No, my domain is shorter than that. My ohmTown should be. It is the largest online community. It's got nothing. I can't say any of that truthfully. So anyway, a billionaire. Look at that. This guy. Sure. I apologize to those who were excited for this project to happen. A Dear Moon representative confirmed the cancellation in a statement to Business Insider. Representatives for SpaceX did not respond to Business Insider's request for comment, but you could hear Elon Musk screaming into his pillow. This cost me nothing. Anyway, the billionaire previously traveled to space in December 2021 during a 12-day trip to the International Space Station. He spent an estimated $80 million to ride aboard a Russian Soyuz rocket Musk founded SpaceX in 2022 and recently answered questions about the company during the annual Milken Institute Global Conference in May, which every time I hear him, he sounds like a rambling, bumbling boob. But that's okay. Maezawa announced the 8 people who would fly aboard the space vehicle on a YouTube video in December 2022. The guest list included American DJ Steve Aoki, K-pop star T.O.P., and Indian actor Dev Joshi. But that's only a few of the, not all 8. Okay, anyway, let's keep going because this is just driving me bonkers.
I think we're going down the rabbit hole here.
Yeah, so the next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Live Nation took 11 days to confirm the massive Ticketmaster data breach and is probably charging people for that knowledge and requiring you to pay a print at home fee, even though you don't actually print these articles.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so someone going by the name of Shiny Hunters has been advertising a 1.3 terabyte cache of data allegedly containing personal items like names, email and home addresses, phone numbers, credit cards, other information about 560 million Ticketmaster customers for $500,000 in hacking forums all week. Now, Ticketmaster parent Live Nation, the company that upset an army of Taylor Swift fans, is facing a federal antitrust lawsuit, publicly acknowledged a data breach in a regulatory filing late Friday evening, but it took them 11 days to confirm it. The thing about it is, you really don't know if you're breached unless they are doing something destructive or something manipulative in the data stream. Otherwise, you look like a regular old connection, except in a venue where you're not supposed to have that type of connection external. So what was their security operations center doing? What was their anybody? They have to have
a lot of data, right? I mean, I'm sure Ticketmaster has a lot of data, but how could you lose that much or have an external access to that data without realizing it?
The exfiltration of 1.3 terabytes, depending on how long it took.
Shouldn't that have caused like system slowdown or other things?
It depends on how much bandwidth they were actually taking up in the process of this, but there should have been somebody that was auditing the system. A firewall should have flagged some, because you train a firewall and then over time you babysit it. There should have been somebody watching this to see if anything untoward suddenly popped up. But if they looked at the wrong times, then they wouldn't necessarily see anything. But certain databases shouldn't be tapped. I really doubt that all 560 million plus, because I'm sure they have more people than 560 million in their Ticketmaster database. Something had to have triggered something somewhere, but apparently it didn't for 11 days or for some amount of time, and then they notified after 11 days. Richard Lawler over at TheVerge.com put this article together. Data allegedly belonging to 560 million Ticketmaster customers has been on sale all week, but the company stayed silent until Friday night.
That's what I don't get. Like, there were reports before they said, oh yeah, we were hacked.
Yeah, and that has happened before, man. It's unsettling because they'll deny, and then somebody will plop out a little segment of data, and then they're gonna, It's kind of like the proof of life holding up a newspaper, you know?
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! I guess they really are breaching us. Maybe we should go and look. And then they find out that things are actually somebody's in the system. They don't even. I can almost guarantee you that they don't know where else somebody might be in the system. Change all the passwords you want, but there's some passwords that just can't change. For instance, maybe there's something that can't change, and if they know it, then they're in your system still. Live Nation didn't provide specific details about the breach, how many people are affected, or what's going on, what it's doing. But a report by the security firm Hudson Rock claims bad actors breached their Snowflake cloud storage account, as well as those of other companies. So again, when it's somebody else's system, it's their security profile that has to be bolstered. And unfortunately, there are times where that doesn't take place and somebody finds a way in. A security analyst needs to be correct 100% of the time. Otherwise, it's risk mitigation. And so you have actual risk mitigation policy and procedure there. You basically just go, let's try and isolate as much stuff as possible to limit how much we are exposed. There are thousands upon thousands of people trying to get into, Ticketmaster in general.
Well, and the timing is so interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is like right. They've been in the news. The lawsuit was just announced.
Yep. And a lot of people really hate Live Nation slash Ticketmaster. The article here at the very end basically exposes what it is. They say that they're controlling more than 60 of the top 100 amphitheaters. Where else are people going to go? And that's the problem. The way that it works is Live Nation slash Ticketmaster buys up all of the tickets and then sells them, giving the money at the venue's contracted price. Like, here's a lump sum. This is my understanding. And then Ticketmaster sells them, so they get their money right away. The venue gets their money right away, and they don't have to wait and hope, process, and do all of that crap. They don't have to pay for point of sale service systems right at the thing to spin it up. They don't have to babysit personally identifiable information, et cetera, et cetera. All they have to do is manage the tickets. And so when somebody comes with a ticket, they bleep the QR code and they're in. They already have their money. They don't have to worry about anything. All the processing, all the babysitting is done by Ticketmaster. The problem there is nobody can compete with that. You cannot go and buy a venue. You can't buy 50 tickets from a venue because they've sold all of their tickets to Ticketmaster. Owning 60, or I should say controlling 60 of the top 100 doesn't quite total the total coverage of Ticketmaster. They have their feet in everybody's door, and they could buy up an entire venue. If somebody suddenly becomes really popular, they can just buy the venue up, all of the tickets. And then they sell it aftermarket and the price goes up, and scalpers then raise the price up even higher because they're still buying from Ticketmaster. Scalpers are buying, 10 tickets when normal people buy 2, right?
Well, and that's one thing I don't really understand is, well, maybe they can't. Well, there are ways to stop it, but even just limiting the number of tickets per party would be part of it.
Well, I think that the key ingredient here would be that a ticket bought is a ticket sold. So it goes to the person who bought it and it can't be resold. Somebody can go, well, what if I don't want to go? Well, then you sell it back to the venue can buy it back from you and then sell it to somebody else. But it prevents scalping. You can't transfer it to anybody else. That's what I think should happen. And it'll only be sold by the venue, but the venue doesn't want to babysit this. They don't want to have somebody having to babysit this. And so they sell it all to Ticketmaster, who doesn't, their customer service is shit. At least in every instance that I've ever had to work with them to solve a problem, it was garbage, going so far as to, like, the latest one was they just gave me some random tickets, not where I actually selected my seat, because it was the midnight before the show and they...
Well, and what's your recourse, right? It's like there really isn't. You want to go to the show? Yeah,
you gotta deal with that crap. Anyway, let's keep going. The next article is over on the Marble Channel. We have returned to the age of questionable popcorn buckets. Deadpool proved once again that it is a franchise that loves to be in with the joke. With its own answer to the infamous Dune popcorn bucket that invites you to cram your hand all the way down Hugh Jackman's proverbial throat. And if that wasn't enough for you to catch up on, there's other stuff. So let's go and take a look. Wolverine's gaping popcorn maw, Lego Legend of Zelda, and One Merry Fellow in particular were among the biggest stories of the week. James Whitbrook is the author. The article is over at gizmodo.com. The title of it is "We Have Returned to the Age of Questionable Popcorn Buckets." And there's a slideshow, but the only one that I really was interested in showing was
That's probably not that one.
the Deadpool and Wolverine's official popcorn bucket invites you to cram your hand inside Hugh Jackman. So,
What I don't really get with the popcorn buckets lately is, like, I think you want something that's maybe appetizing because people are going to be eating. It's the same thing with the Dune one.
This is just wrong. So it says on it, designed by Deadpool, and it's Wolverine wearing a mask as his outfit, his uniform, his costume. It's not a costume, Mom, it's a uniform. Anyway, and his mouth is open and it's filled with popcorn after melted butter is dribbled across his face. So, yeah, here's the reveal. Anyway, I'm not going to show you all the rest of this slideshow. You can go over and check it out all on your own. Sound good?
Sounds good.
There you go. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in the Technology Today channel, Caffeine and Ants, a potential game changer in pest control. Who knew? I don't know if this actually has anything to do with it. Caffeine increases the navigational efficiency of Argentine ants towards sugary baits, suggesting a new method to enhance the effectiveness of pest control efforts. So get them amped up on on caffeine, and then
then the more like they move faster or whatever toward the trap, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Cell Press is the byline here, but it must be the magazine or the journal. It's over at scitechdaily.com. And yeah, so caffeine increases the navigational efficiency of Argentine ants towards sugary baits, suggesting a new method to enhance the effectiveness of pest control efforts. And by adding caffeine to sugary baits, the ants follow more direct paths to the reward, potentially making these baits more effective. This improvement in learning and navigation could help in controlling this invasive species, which has proven resistant to traditional baits due to poor uptake and bait abandonment. So they're like, no, you're not going to get us with that.
Right, we're too smart for that.
Yeah, build a better ant trap. Smarter ants show up. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. Oh, these are two pictures of the ant, one before and one after drinking caffeine. You can actually see
they look different, but I don't know what that signifies. But I guess the point is it affects them.
Yeah. And what they should do is give that electric lemonade to these ants. They'll just have heart attacks. Argentine ants are a significant ecological and economic threat worldwide. Traditional control methods, primarily poisonous baits, often fail, likely due to low bait uptake and bait abandonment. So they're master debaiters or master unbaiters. They are not master baiters because they don't take the bait. By adding caffeine, known to enhance learning in other insects like honeybees and bumblebees, researchers hope to improve the ants' ability to memorize bait locations and lead their nestmates back. So, wait, the implication here is that the ants are just dumb.
But I thought ants were supposed to be pretty smart.
Yeah, they all follow chemical paths.
They have, it might be more instinct or whatever than.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking of things like leafcutter ants.
Yeah, that's always brilliant, right? Because they don't eat the leaves in the conventional sense of eating leaves. They chew them all up and turn it into a farm for growing mushrooms.
But again, maybe that's just instinct or something.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, the moment that I see them actually adding stuff up and 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 taking
Or applying
debris.
salves or other things.
Yeah, yeah. They're like hugging each other and say it's going to be okay, and rocking slowly. When they comfort each other, or they add up. 1 + 1 = 42. So without caffeine, the ants did not learn to navigate to the reward location more quickly on subsequent foraging trips, suggesting that they're just stupid. However, ants exposed to low and intermediate levels of caffeine showed a marked increase in their foraging efficiency. So time reductions, it literally amped them up.
I mean, this kind of makes you want to watch this experiment, right? Like seeing them racing around. Although that could be quite alarming. If you saw ants on caffeine and you didn't know they were on caffeine,
Yeah.
you'd be like, what is happening here?
It's all... See that ant go by? The sad thing about it, though, is that at some point the caffeine dose didn't produce the same effect, and I suspect that it was the level of electric lemonade, and they had a heart attack or something.
Oh, no. Well, I was
Promising
thinking
results.
maybe they just got used to the caffeine and they needed more.
They were like, yeah. Or they were just zoned out. They're like, Joe, go, Joe, go. And it's just staring at the wall, mouth hanging open. And you hear it whisper, I'm moving so fast you can't see me. So the reference here is acute exposure to caffeine improves foraging in an invasive ant by, is it Enrique Galante et al. I'm not going to read all the names. Over in iScience. What's interesting about this, though, is that it so beats around the bush as to what it actually is doing. It's literally just making them do their job faster. It's making these ants forage faster, not more efficient per se. It makes them beeline right to. They're like, I smell sugar.
Oh, exactly. I mean, can you blame them? People do that too.
Yeah, I do that. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. NASA again delays first astronaut crewed flight into space on Boeing Starliner because I don't know. One of the links linked to just the cover page because the feed was received so fast that they, I think, didn't even have the article built. Another one said that it was something having to do with like a pump or a transfer of something. Blah, 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 blah. But I called it right when they canceled the last one. I said that the design for this thing is flawed. There's something wrong with this thing fundamentally. It seems like it's a new shape, but with old technology in play. Other than the rocket itself, this module that's sitting on top of it, just get Musk to fix it. He's brilliant, right? Anyway, NASA delayed the launch, but he doesn't work for Boeing. So if you put a Starliner designed by SpaceX on it, then it'll probably work. But Boeing's having a hard time locating bolts to hold shit together.
Oh, no. Well, I know that's why it's a little alarming that they're doing a space mission, but...
Yeah. Saturday was just the latest Starliner launch to get delayed. NASA again delays first astronaut crewed flight into space on Boeing's Starliner. Gina Sunseri and Mary Kakatos put the article together for abcnews.go.com. They say the next opportunity is Sunday at 12:03 p.m., but I really doubt that they're going to find a solution for this. They're working to understand the cause, but it was the automatic system that shut it down for whatever reason. The quote was, due to the computer ground launch sequencer not loading into the correct operational configuration after proceeding into terminal count.
It sounds kind of important.
It's odd. I mean, how many times do you go through this process? And what was out of bounds that made this computer, wet the bed?
Exactly. And how did you get so close to launch and then it's suddenly like, surprise?
Yeah, 3 minutes, 50 seconds. The Starliner was set to launch from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida to take an approximately 24-hour journey to the International Space Station to deposit the 2 or so that are in there. The spacecraft can carry 7 people, but this test drive will only have 2 NASA astronauts, Barry Wilmore, 61, and Sunita Williams, 58.
I'm not sure why their ages have any relationship in this article.
Yeah. Unless it says, the spacecraft commander, Barry Wilmore, 12, and Sunita Williams, 11.
Yeah, then it would be noteworthy.
Space Camp has lost control of its first rocket. Although there was a movie about that where a kid built a robot, the robot hacked into NASA, modified the software to fake a criticality in the rocket system, so NASA had to launch it, and so the kids during space camp launched into space. Yeah, it's okay. The launch was tentatively...
That's what's going on here.
Maybe, yeah. Saturday was just the latest, because the last time this happened, the oxygen valve, which is the one that I had said is going to be this problem too. A new date was set for May 25th, but a small helium leak was discovered in the service module, which contains support systems and instruments for operating. Meanwhile,
again, sounds kind of important.
NASA awarded Boeing a $4.2 billion contract to develop Starliner, but a decade later, the company has lost nearly $1.5 billion because of the delays. Yikes. Let's keep going. The next article is over on the Wanted channel. PC gaming is plunging into a dark age, according to this article.
That sounds rather
ominous, right?
Doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom, yeah, cynical. If you've been buying or playing PC games the way you're supposed to, it's easy to assume that PC gaming as a whole is going swimmingly. There are plenty of titles because they're being released each week, many of them amazing. If you bought all of the most popular games released in any given month, you'd probably be busy for a year. I will be. And while the costs of AAA games are going up, it's still easy to find excellent indie games for cheap. True. Roger Fingus, who so far hasn't really set the stage for doom and gloom, because the title is 4 Signs that PC Gaming is Plunging into a Dark Age. The deck statement says, as with most industries, PC gamings will have to adapt and evolve with the times, even if they look dire. Hold on, let's see. Number 1, massive layoffs at game developers. Creative games need experienced creators. True, but creative games also need people to be developed into experienced creators. So I'm not too worried about that. You may think, well, you're not going to get a creative game if they're all new, but new doesn't preclude you. I think it might
get better.
Yeah, it's a different set of eyes, and it's not old school thinking. Maybe you're going to get something innovative. Maybe you're going to get something that is changing. The way the status quo has been, I don't know, Baldur's Gate 3, that's just one of them. But there are many out there. I'm not going to get into all the games that I'm going to be trying to play during the summer of stream, which is today.
Okay, but tell us one.
No. You're putting me on the spot.
You're right.
So, like Soul Mask. I really like Soul Mask. And that game is actually by Campfire Studio and published by Cooland Games.
So is that an indie studio?
Neither one of these do I know outside of this. So it may be a studio that's funded by a bigger company, but I haven't really looked into them. And it's a lot like Conan, another game that has a fine following. But what's neat about this is that it explores things in a different way. It's a survival base builder type of game, in a world where you actually define roles of people that you either go out and capture and bring to your base, or they just show up at your base and say, hey, I want to join your clan. And then you tell them what to do and they do it. It's kind of like you're like a demigod, and you can tell the people what to do and they do it. They obey it wholeheartedly. You want somebody to go and forage for food, you tell them where to go, they go forage. Defend the base, craft things, repair things, build things, whatever. Yeah, it's a fun game. Anyway, massive layoffs at game developers. That is all brought on by mergers and acquisitions, or investors demanding that their return on their investment be tighter. They want more done with less. And that isn't a Dark Ages thing. That's a business mechanic. And I think Dark Ages is something different. Dark Ages, when I hear Dark Ages, the implication is tyrant, iron-fisted rule, people having to work 100+ hour work weeks with no breaks, and they don't have any opportunity to grow or do anything else, and they can't leave, and they have some non-compete bullshit or whatever going on. That is Dark Ages.
Right.
Essentially forced labor. Yeah. So massive layoffs. You don't want massive layoffs? Yeah, good luck. Change the whole... Spin up your own business and refuse to merge. Studio closures. More consolidation and fewer surprises. Again, it's a business mechanic. Change the culture of the gaming developers. They are selling out to the bigger business, and they're taking their winnings and leaving, and everybody else who operated in good faith, they don't know what their job is going to be, because with every consolidation, every acqui-hire, any merger or acquisition means that there's going to be fat, and they're going to trim it. And guess what all the fat is? Extra people.
The developers.
Yep. So spin up your own company and become your own boss. Then you'll find out just how much a studio closure actually is painful if you actually close it. And everybody loses their job, or you get hired, acquired, or whatever, merge with somebody else. You bow out because you're the CEO, and you still have to look at your employees and go, hey, I'm going to drive my Ferrari home, and y'all can just kiss my shiny metal ass. Games are getting more expensive and taking longer. Well, again, business mechanics. I don't know about the taking longer thing. It says ride or die isn't a business strategy. Games are getting more expensive. That's arguably inflation and profiteering.
Well, and also larger studios, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they say that AAA games are now $80. Yeah. What's really interesting, though, is they were expensive when I was in the industry. And I always thought that, well, when we switched to digital, the price should drop. But I knew fully well that it wasn't going to drop. The margin was going to increase, and they'd gobble up that.
But it should have, right?
It should have.
Like the cost should have gone down because they didn't have all the distribution costs and all that.
Yep. No packaging, no nothing.
Materials, exactly.
Yeah. And so when I look at stuff, I see the. So when I look at like a newspaper, right? I had written a research paper about transitioning from printed press to digital press. And I came to the conclusion that there's going to be big businesses that can do the transfer, but smaller ones can't. So let them use the printed press, lease it at cost, just so that they can keep on operating. Or, you could be a sociopath and not allow them to have access to it. And the printed press will be relegated to destruction, and the people who would use it can't afford that level of press. And so they would eventually close because they can't operate, right? Everything's switching digital. So they try and switch to digital. Everybody tries to switch to digital. But instead, what I see is there's a printed component of the digital press, and you pay 25% more for the printed side. But the bulk of the cost, Like, let's say a year is $100 for the print and the digital version. But if you chop out the print, it only shaves $20 off. Because I guess the bulk of the cost really is the digital side, right? The actual print material, the
Right.
material itself, the news. Well, there's no way in hell that it only cost 20% of the operational budget to print an entire thing and then distribute it all around the nation and the world. That's
Right. It
insane.
can't be.
So, are things getting more expensive? Yeah, because there's more money in the system, and greedy bastards can't just be happy with the costs that they've already garnered. The supply side sees how much money is out there and says, I can get more because you can't do your job without my supplies. And from that point on, everybody has to raise their prices. So go look at how few people are in control of the supplies. The root cause of our inflation is the supplies. It isn't just some random person standing in the middle of a Walmart going, you know what? I see all these products out here. I'm going to raise the prices. And suddenly, uh, butterfly effect, it impacts everybody else. No, the supply side. Go look at the costs of that first sale from the suppliers to the producers, the producer price index. Those producers, that first transaction has gone up, and then now it's actually declined, but not at the rate that you'd think that the consumer price index would be declining. No, the consumer price index is still increasing, which means the margin is greater. So again, back to the producer side.
Consumer losing every time.
Every time. And because so few people are in control of so much, you go, well, I'm going to stop buying cereal. Well, then the price of eggs goes up because it's the same people that own all of this. Okay, and it says producers are still hooked on live service games. It says chasing the end of the capitalist rainbow. This is probably the one I do agree with, because live service is going to be
Stop killing games.
It's a perpetual. The way that I'm going to say this is probably going to offend somebody, but it's essentially the publishers, the greedy bastards, sucking from the the consumer teat. They will keep on taking money for what should be a server that's already created, just like Minecraft. You just put it on the computer. I've got other games that don't have a live service attached to it. I can spin up the server, invite my friends, and we can all play the game, right? The live service does nothing of benefit to the consumer. If you want to make more money, you should create more DLC and then push it out. One and done. You get my money, you work harder. You get my money again, you work harder. You get my money again, you work harder. But that's not what we get either. We get DLC attached to a live service. Then you can't do anything, because the moment that you stop paying, then the live service will eventually go away because you can't play it anymore, right?
Right.
They'll kill the freaking game because it's no longer producing income. And instead of giving us the server, they flat out kill the game. And you don't own jack shit, everybody. You don't own a thing. You have a perpetual license to consume, and that's it. The moment they pull the plug, the hundreds of dollars that you may have put into this game is gone. And they're going to be able to defend it by saying, well, it's a license to consume, and you consumed X amount. And while I've only played 20 hours of the game, and somebody else has played 2,000 hours of the game, my cost has been $20, or sorry, 20 hours for $120. What is that
Right. But
$2,000?
their cost is
Yeah, either
oh
higher or
yeah.
lower.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
depending on how much money they fed into the system. But if we both spent $100 and they played for 2,000 hours, they benefited vastly compared to me.
Oh yeah.
So this is the one that I would agree with full on. That I wouldn't call it Dark Ages, but definitely the greedy bastard stage of online games. Meanwhile, Elder Scrolls Online has killed their monthly fee for several years now. And so you buy a package of the game, the next downloadable, the DLC, the next expansion. You buy that. World of Warcraft still has a $15 a month charge. So you still have to pay there.
Well,
And
that's what's also ridiculous, right? The prices have gone up, and then you're paying the recurring fee.
as a matter of fact, it was, I think it was $70 for the latest expansion of World of Warcraft. And that's not all of the next expansion. It's in tranches. It's known that there's going to be 3 big blops of expansion coming, and the first one was a $70 expansion, and you have to pay $15. But you get some perks. You can pump up your character real fast, but because you got a token with that purchase that allowed you to skip all of the grind and not do the story. If you want to, I mean, you can, but anyway. Okay, enough of this. Let's keep going. We'll go on to the next one. This next article is over in the Order of the Grape. It's probably, oh no, I don't know where it's from. Who is it? Wine Spectator. It's a fairly new
Oh yeah. That might be the first
source.
article we featured on the show
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
for them.
Yep. Does your canned wine smell off? Scientists have a solution. I don't know what they say. Canned wine. Oh, canned wine is the fastest growing segment of new wine container innovations on the market, with their lightweight convenience, creative designs, and recyclability all appealing to younger consumers. Yay! Uh, Sales are especially strong in summer and spring. I read that backwards. When outdoor social events are favor easily accessible single-serving vessels over the classic glass bottle, but I prefer glass because it is infinitely recyclable and doesn't need a special coating inside like cans do.
And it doesn't have microplastics.
In any way, shape, or form. Yeah. So the article is over at winespectator.com. And the deck statement says, after reports of rotten egg smell, scientists at Cornell found a culprit and are designing new materials to help the wines shine. Olivia Nolan is the author of this. And they say that they've discovered what's at the bottom of what causes some canned wines to emit a rotten egg smell when opened. And I can almost get, I haven't read the article yet. I won't look at it. I'm willing to bet that it's the fermentation of the sugars into alcohol that's still taking place inside the vessel. And it's a certain chemical that actually comes from distillation as well, and that's why they use copper stills. It turns it into a sugar instead of letting it sit as this rotten smell. But let's find out. But as canned wine becomes increasingly popular, a marketing problem looms. Some consumers started reporting a rotten egg smell when their can was cracked open, while the beverage itself didn't seem to be affected. These reports caused concern among producers who had chosen cans over bottles for their wines. So, what is it that's doing it? Let's find out. No chemical compounds in soda or beer are known to react with aluminum, but wine often contains approximately 0.5 to 1 parts per million of, that's it right there, sulfur dioxide.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to bet that they're going to drop copper somewhere in this. So let's find out. Little did winemakers know that SO2 is in extended contact with aluminum. A chemical reaction takes place, creating hydrogen sulfide, a known culprit behind rotten egg aromas in liquids. We often notice the wines with more than 0.5 parts per million molecular SO2. We had sizable increases of H2S, the rotten egg smell, so hydrogen sulfide. So let's see here. What are they going to do?
So they're going to lower, one thing was to lower the level of SO2,
Gotcha.
but not remove it.
Right. Because it's part of the thing. Microbial growth, right? Yeah.
Oxidation, which may be the same thing.
There was concern for removing SO2 from wines completely, as the potential for both oxidation, which means that it would actually flatten the wine, and microbial growth would increase. So it's both.
Okay, I didn't see that. I only saw the other one.
Yeah, no worries. And the last thing winemakers wanted was a spoiled wine in the can. So yeah. Cans provide a hermetic seal. They honestly, they should probably put something copper inside, but I'm not sure if that would react.
They're looking at food grade polymers.
Yeah, so back to plastics. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer may surprise you. Plastics. This may seem antithetical to the convenient recycling of cans, but with new funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, the team is designing and testing recyclable food-grade polymers that, when applied to the lining of an aluminum can, may do a great deal. This is exactly what I just got done saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, aluminum cans are always going to be a problem. You can have... we get a great Spanish wine that's actually casked in aluminum casks. It's put into aluminum casks after its fermentation. The one with the blue and white label. I can't remember the name of it.
I know what you mean, but I can't think of the name of it.
I can't remember it. Anyway, because it's put in aluminum kegs, you get this pop that it's so bright, but absolutely delicious during summer. But that's what happens in aluminum casks. It actually reacts. The only way you can get away from it is to line it with something. And if it's plastic, you're going to get microplastics. It doesn't matter if it's food grade. It's still going to be biologically incompatible with humans. When it's a microplastic that's out of control, it's going to end up in your testicles like everybody else's. All of the plastics have been found in every single donated.
Even if you don't have testicles, it might end up there.
It's going to find, yeah. Yes. Yeah. If you don't have testicles, it's going to be found in your testicles because it's going to spawn testicles.
It's going to be everywhere.
I've said testicles way too many times. Anyway, we're running really late, so let's keep going. The next article is over in Late Night Geeks. AI training data has a price tag, but only big tech can afford it. And I think it's absurd. If it's publicly accessible information, it's no different than a human scanning the information. There's no way that a human can retain that knowledge in situ. And that's not what the bot does. It translates it into its own little gibberish, whatever. It's not verbatim because there's too much information to sit there and parse like that. It learns the context, etc., etc. It's not like every time you ask an AI, it parses all of its data set from the large language model. That's not how it works. Math basically consolidates the context of whatever it observes down into something that is actionable, something that turns into communication from the AI. So these next two articles, I'm basically picking a fight with anybody that sits there and says AI is stealing. No, it's not. No, it just isn't. Generative AI improvements are increasingly being made through data curation and collection, not architectural improvements. Big tech has an advantage. And Kyle Wiggers over at TechCrunch.com put this article together. And it says, trained on the same data set for long enough, pretty much every model converges to the same point. Is Betker right? Is training data the biggest determiner of what a model can do, whether it's answer a question, draw human hands, or generate a realistic cityscape? It's certainly plausible. And they talk about statistical machines. Lowe gave the example of Meta's Llama 3, a text-generating model revised earlier this year, which outperforms AI2's own Olmo model, despite being architecturally very similar. Llama 3 was trained on significantly more data than Olmo, which Lowe believes explains its superiority on many popular AI benchmarks. Now, go ahead.
I actually think a limited data set might do better depending on the purpose of the particular LLM.
Yep. And that is the personalization element that OpenAI talks about and other AI experts talk about. Personalization and form of function, that plays a huge role in the precision and accuracy and truthfulness of the outputs. For instance, I don't want all of the other bullshit that's associated with a large language model to be producing content in my medical AI or in my business AI or in my legal AI. They need to be broken off from the mass so that there's no bullshit. It's the same reason why I created ohmTown. I didn't want all of the other noise. I just want the news. I'm the noise in ohmTown. And you are. If you become a citizen and post comments and go over to the Discord and all of that kind of stuff, you're the noise, but you're part of the community and you actually agree with the ideological bent that it's all news, no noise. If you have a comment to make, fine, but it's not going to make it into the mainstream. It's going to always be behind the front page, behind each news aggregate. So nobody really want, the only people that want this general AI with all of this stuff are the people who kind of get a kick out of the sociological mechanisms of this. I want an artist one. I want a musician one. I want subject matter experts, and
Right,
that's
niche.
yeah.
Better data, probably better responsive to queries.
Yep. So you don't end up with bad behavior like they talk about in this article. But then they're talking about the cost. So OpenAI has spent hundreds of millions of dollars licensing content from news publishers, stock media libraries, and more to train its AI models. Remember, I said this. OpenAI is the only one that can afford this. Other billionaire class startups can afford this, but every regular Joe can't. So what's going to end up happening is all of the AIs that continue to grow are either going to be sued into oblivion because they are looking at publicly accessible content and not compensating, or it's going to be controlled by the billionaires and you're going to have to pay $10. They benefit from you asking your AI questions, but you're basically paying to train the AI in your small world. But it's going to be controlled by the billionaire class. Not everybody is getting their own. In a way, they are. But again, every question you ask an AI that's given to somebody that's controlled by somebody else, just like your cloud data is on somebody else's server, your questions asked to an AI that isn't on your server facilitates the other person.
Right. Well, you're then becoming part of the data.
You are the data. Yeah, once again, except that you're now paying for the privilege of being the data.
Right.
Yeah. So many have already done this. News agencies are feeding into the AI. What's the bonehead AI? The whatever. The other fever dream. I can't. It's like
Oh, Grok
XAI or something
something?
like that. Yeah, all of that from that whole wing is funded, not funded, but powered by Twitter. And because Twitter has gone completely off the deep end, it is a poison well of data that's going to spit out the same garbage that gets put into the well. And so that is siloed. So let's just assume that that has some portion of the $40 billion that used to be Twitter. So it's really expensive to get all of this data. Only a billionaire would be able to get Twitter. Only a billionaire would be able to get the data from all of these news agencies. So
Exactly. We're not going to see much competition in this area.
And now there will be competition right up until regulatory capture takes it all over, like I've always been saying. And I have experience in this because I was part of. I had spun up a let's just say finance website, a finance related website for payments, and I couldn't keep up with the likes of PayPal, which did get regulatory capture and was able to take part in voicing what could happen. And so when certain things had to be done by every payment gateway system, unless you were well funded, you couldn't participate in that voice, in that discussion. You were done. So, and that's what happened. And that's just, I basically became a bench warmer in that whole domain. Said, okay, well, I don't want to have a bunch of investors, regardless of how rich they are. I guess that was my first taste of the sociopathy that's associated with ever increasing wealth. Let's keep going though. Last article for today, and this is the last one I'll be picking a fight regarding, because I think that this is all bullshit. I don't care about voice. Why? Because I guarantee you I could go down to, well, if a mall existed, I could go to the bookstore. Oh, wait, those don't exist anymore either. I'll go to the records. No, those don't exist anymore.
How about a VR space or something?
Those don't really exist either if you hear what the market is saying, right? Everybody's at Meta. You find a group of people, and I'd be able to find somebody that does or can talk like Scarlett Johansson, right?
Well, absolutely. And just because it sounds like her doesn't mean that it's done anything incorrect.
Right.
In a vacuum.
Right. Now, what complicates this is that somebody posts a stupid her out there and asks Scarlett Johansson, hey, do you want to be the voice of AI? No. Now, even after all of that, if you say, okay, fine, you don't want to do it, we're not going to ask you to do it anymore. We hired somebody, it sounds like you, but we're not going to say that it's you anymore. We're not going to imply that it's you. And we will discount everything that is ever brought up, saying, hey, it sounds like Scarlett Johansson. And so we will diminish. Look, we aren't saying that it's Scarlett Johansson. We're not even saying that it's implied to be Scarlett Johansson. It just happens to sound like Scarlett Johansson because at one time we really appreciated that voice, not Scarlett Johansson. It doesn't have her personality. It doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. And just because there's coincidence of it aligning with the snarkiness or the playfulness, that's what somebody wants. That's what somebody is looking for. I don't care about the voice because the voice can be anything. If somebody else wants that voice to be changed from Sky to something else, the AI should have the ability to become something else.
Yeah, I agree. I think my concern with it is if they really wanted it to be her and then they kind of announced that it was her, like, why didn't they make it sound like anything else? There's tons of good voices in the world.
Because they were already deep in the reeds. Somebody wanted it to sound like Scarlett Johansson. OpenAI's Sky sounds a lot like ScarJo, according to voice researchers. Wes Davis put the article together. The deck statement says researchers also found similarities to Anne Hathaway and Carrie Russell, NPR reports. Here's the problem. We've become so tied to celebrity that they're not going to sit there and go, well, researchers also found that it sounds like somebody named Kennedy who works at the malt shop down at the mall, or that there's somebody named Russell that it sounds like, and they work at a vinyl shop in Main Street in Podunk Town in Kentucky, vinyl as in records.
I know, but I was like, what is that?
Like, all of these voices are being tied to celebrity because that's the salacious, that's the click. The reason why this is so conflated now is because somebody said that they wanted it to sound like Scarlett Johansson and typed out her, when it could have just been a parallel. Look, we have a playful, synthetic, artificial intelligent voice.
Don't you think one potential problem here, since the model thinks it also sounds like these other celebrities, is
Right.
that maybe Hollywood is only interested in like one type of voice, one type of look?
Yeah, really. Yeah. It says but the models also often found that the voices of Anne Hathaway and Kerry Russell resembled Sky's more than Johansson's. Visor Berisha, a professor who led the analysis, told NPR that Johansson's voice is similar, but likely not identical. Berisha's other work includes Origin Story, a PDF is linked, an FTC challenge-winning microphone that watermarks voice recordings as human created. But I think that that's bullshit because, well, maybe it works. I don't know. I'd have to go and noodle around with this. Because I've been around the block with this, and it was really easy to identify and remove watermarking technology in audio files. I created an entire system that was designed to embed subsonic encrypted data into the recording, and it was easy to remove. So maybe they're brilliant and they've got something that nobody else, but I can almost bet you that nobody cares enough to go and remove it. But when I created mine, my friend and coworker, we removed our own data to see if once we were aware that it was there, could do it. Yeah, we could do it. So that means a better mousetrap breeds a better mouse, and I'm sure that this can be wiped out. So it says, nevertheless, the researchers reportedly concluded that were undeniable commonalities between the voices. For instance, the analysis reportedly showed that Sky's and Johansson's vocal tracts would have identical lengths. Vocal tract refers to throat, mouth, nasal passages. That's bullshit. All that, it's impossible for them to absolutely, without a doubt, sit there and say that it would be identical, because there's different intonations, there's different ways of constructing the phonemes, and there is somebody out there that sounds like Scarlett Johansson. You just don't know it. A fingerprint is one thing, but a voice, no, there's no way that it is absolutely unique out of 8 billion people on the planet. No. So because if they're sitting there talking about voices, Sky, a little higher this, a little more expressive that means it's different. So no, I don't buy it for a
Right.
second.
All of that is variation.
Yeah. It's the same reason why I don't think that a 3-second soundbite from a song should be significant enough. The problem that I have is if they say Sky is Scarlett Johansson.
Well, I think they've done that.
But they haven't. They've actually discounted it. They've said that Sky is not Scarlett Johansson. They are flat out telling people Scarlett Johansson said no. And that tweet that was made without anybody knowing, because that particular person is the head of OpenAI and didn't consult.
Yeah,
It
but it's
basically
not
did
like it was like a worker bee. Like, I think
right.
that actually does more damage.
But they shouldn't have done it. That's what I'm saying. Because
I agree.
the truth of this is, if Johansson had said yes, then you can do it, right? But until then, the stars weren't aligned, literally. So they went back and they said, we found somebody, a person named Sky, let's say, and Sky is the one that is the voice. It says both OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and CTO Mira Murati have denied that Sky is intended to sound like Johansson. After his GPT 4.0 demo earlier this month, after which Altman published a one-word post that simply read her. So the announcement was done for GPT-4o, and then they typed her, which could have been, look, I've watched the movie Her, it sounds like her. But then when you look back at the timeline, you find out that they asked Johansson, apparently, hey, do you want to be the voice?
2 days before the release. I mean, it wasn't like it was 3 years ago and then they abandoned it and whatever.
Right. So it was basically, Sky is the real voice. It sounds like Johansson. Altman goes, wow, it sounds like her. And between the release, right before the GPT-4o demo, they asked Johansson, do you want to do it? No.
Yeah, but they'd already developed it. That's what I think is really ridiculous. There's no way they developed it 2 days before it was released.
No. They developed Sky. And it sounds like Johansson. Johansson hadn't taken part in any of the modeling. So it's literally somebody else's voice.
Just
Sky.
making up whatever, but it happens to sound like it.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's anything there. What I do think, though, is that they're going to have to be more careful in the future. My problem is there is no way that you'll be able to claim, unless you have the smoking gun of like audio recordings of Scarlett Johansson, and that was the only thing used to train this model, then yes. But if it's a composite of the plurality of voices that are similar to Scarlett Johansson, I do not give a shit.
I bet the prompt was sound like Scarlett Johansson.
Sound like Scarlett Johansson.
Like nothing else. Like no variation, whatever.
Yeah. And if you have that, then fine.
But I agree. Like it could be any number of things. I'm just saying that as like worst case scenario for the company.
But the only time that it would be deemed illegal or should be illegal is if they say, hey, we should start calling our AI Scarlett.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be even worse than where they are now. Even if we don't know all the facts, but like if worst case, I agree. But I'm not really convinced. It's just we don't have access to the information. We don't know what was fed to it. I mean, for example, was Scarlett Johansson's voice fed into it?
Right.
If so, that's very different than if it was just like make a voice that sounds and then some adjectives or something.
Right. And it just happens to sound and also put in there, and it can sound strangely like Scarlett Johansson in the movie Her. Okay. Well, anyway, that's it for today. We're running really late. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I'm not going to refresh. We'll just call it a night and we'll move on to the next show. Give me about 10 minutes and we'll spin up Reality Hacker, which is all about AR, VR, mixed reality, etc. You won't know who to trust because it could be her. I am Mayor Watt, and up above me is the sentient AI from the future.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Come back for the next show. We have 3 weeklies ahead.
Yep, Reality Hacker, Wanted, and Warcrafters. See you soon. Oh, look, ScarJo is calling me and reading me the Riot Act. What?